Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm always glad to take your phone calls and your emails. One of the major stories that's being debated right now is whether or not bricks and mortar government schools that have failed American children for so long are going to effectively go out of business this fall, and whether or not it makes sense to push school districts to reopen in the fall in some fashion, or to maybe to open them up in some limited fashion. I think all of this is a giant mess. So I thought we'd talk about the medical aspects of this with Dr. Kevin Pham, who's a visiting policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation. Dr. Pham, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much for having me back.
So I'm hearing this debate, and I see the president pushing hard for the schools to reopen. I've also seen the Ed Secretary, Betsy DeVos, say, well, if the bricks and mortar schools don't reopen, then maybe the resources should go to parents who will find alternative forms of education. And I can think of a bunch of those. If there's any silver lining to the China virus, I think it's in the fact that maybe Americans are finally going to get some choice about their kids, and that they can choose wisely about how they want their kids educated. Homeschool, online connections, academy, charter school, private school, or good old-fashioned bricks and mortar school, some of which are being run by school districts and teachers unions that say we don't want to reopen in the fall. Give us your view of this and how we ought to resolve this.
Well, I mean, after that, I'm not sure I want schools to be open anymore. The schools or schooling is a normal part of childhood life in America. And, it's a normal part of life, and we should be trying to return to some semblance of normalcy as much as we can. And as we do that, we have to look at activities that have more risk or less risk. And based on everything that we know from data around the globe, is that school-age children have the lowest risk for severe disease manifestations, the lowest risk for even contracting the disease and transmitting it to others. So schooling, the process of going to school, interacting with your peers, and then learning from a teacher, that is probably one of the lowest risk activities that we can restart. So if we're looking at activities and balancing risks, then this is something that we should do as soon as we can. And on the other side, the risk of keeping students at home, that's another thing that we need to be considering too, because a lot of families rely on schools for nutrition. There's a lot of mental health problems with keeping students isolated at home. A lot of students don't learn very well across Zoom or whatever video conferencing you're going to be using. So these are real risks that will affect all students, whereas the risk of being affected by COVID-19 is very low.
All right. Now, when I hear very low, for instance, the the WAPO, the Washington Post today ran a headline that said kids are half as likely to catch coronavirus as everybody else, as the general population. I said, great. So you're only half as likely to get a disease. And when you talk about the risk, are you only talking about the risk to the teacher and the student or students, or are you talking about the risks if the student goes to school free of COVID and gets it there from another student or from a teacher and brings it home? What's the risk to the family? Because that's an exposure that in a regular school year happens a couple of hundred times a year. And so if you keep sending your kid to school to mix with a couple of hundred other kids in whatever way they're allowed to do it, if the bricks and mortar school's open, are you running the risk that the kid may not show symptoms, may not even have bad effects, although there are some real horror stories involving children who've had it and have had some terrible things happen. About 180,000 kids have had COVID. About 700 of them have ended up being hospitalized. You say, well, it's a fairly low risk. Dr. Pham, I'm inclined to offer you my jar of jelly beans. It has 1,000 jelly beans in it. Only one of them will kill you dead. Would you like to sample one of the 1,000 jelly beans?
Well, if I was going to take that jar and then there's another jar where many more of the jelly beans will give me very severe disease, I might go with the first jar because, again, we're balancing risks because keeping students away from the school, that has its risks too.
I mean, because schooling in bricks and mortar schools it does not go all the way back to America's founding. We've had home education for probably longer in this country than we've had bricks and mortar school education, and now we have better tools for both parents and students to do it from home if they choose to. Should it be up to the parents, or should it be the government dictating which direction they go?
No, it should certainly be up to the parents. I think there should be much more local control over whether to do this or not. If the school's not ready to reopen, one of those government schools, if it doesn't feel like it's ready to reopen, it shouldn't be forced to from on high. But likewise, if parents don't feel like it's safe for their students to return to school, then it would be great if those parents had access to the resources to homeschool their children, or to participate in these homeschool co-ops, or take their money to somewhere else if they don't feel like their children are safe in the public schools, but might be safe in a privately run school. I think Betsy DeVos had a really great statement. We should have the money should follow the students, not the schools, because we care about the students, not necessarily the schools.
See, and I agree with you about that, Dr. Pham. I've always thought the money should follow the student. I mean, many of us have been calling for school vouchers forever, saying a parent can say, oh, I don't have to I don't have to send my kid to the bricks and mortar. I can send him to a charter school. I can send him to a private school and take the voucher plus some of my own cash. I can do online connection style academy, distance learning, and I can figure out what fits my kid the best. The problem, I think, is that there are some powerful forces out there. The education establishment itself, the administrators, the superintendents, the ones who run these multi-billion-dollar operations in communities all over America, and the teachers' unions who realize if the money follows the kid, and the surveys of the last couple of months would say a lot of parents are auguring in the direction of, I don't want to send my kid back to that bricks and mortar location for whatever reason, whether it's smart or dumb, whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision. If the parent says, my kid's going to learn at home, or my kid's going to learn in a charter or a private school, those dollars that the school administrators want so badly and that the teachers unions want so badly, they're going to follow the kid. And if we go that direction, I think the bricks and mortar schools are looking at seeing a substantial drop in the number of students they get.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that if more parents are taking advantage of a potential school voucher system, then the class size will start to decrease in the public schools. And I think that would be beneficial for everybody. And with regards to COVID-19, that would mean that there would be fewer unnecessary, or there'd be fewer contacts between people of the class size that are smaller. So I think this could solve a lot of problems all at once.